to an episode of Music Notes. So today we're going to go a little more in-depth than I do on Monday mornings, kind of back to the music notes where we tell you a little more about the author and a little bit about our tune for the hymn of the day. So this morning we're going to be talking about "The King of Love, My Shepherd Is." So I absolutely love this tune, the lilt of it, it's beautiful. Our author of the text today, his name is Sir Henry Williams Baker. And he was the oldest son of a vice admiral in the British Navy. He was educated at Trinity College in Cambridge and was ordained at the young age of 24. And so he became a priest for the Church of England in 1844. Now, after his curacy, he became the vicar in Monkland, Herefordshire, and that was in 1851. Now, in that same year, upon the death of his father, he became knighted as a baronet. So he came from a family of barons, yet despite having that title, inheriting that title, he chose to continue to live his life in honor of God and to serve his parish there in Monkland. And he lived in a nearby parsonage as a bachelor, and he believed in celibacy for the clergy. And so he was cared for by his sister, and he never married. So he goes on to write many hymns that are very emotive, descriptive, beautiful alliteration, so quite a poet. Uses a lot of imagery. And we actually have 5 of his hymns in our hymnal. Obviously, "The King of Love, My Shepherd Is." Another one that you would recognize that we like to sing is "Of the Father's Love Begotten." So a beautiful Christmas tune. So in his lifetime, one of his passions, aside from writing beautiful poetry, was to put all of this poetry together with tunes and to create a book. And so he was one of the ones that was instrumental in making that first innovative hymns, ancient and modern. And over the last 4 years in our music notes, we've talked about that book of hymns. So it was first published in 1861, and it was a monumental milestone for the history of English hymnody. And so Baker himself, he was one of several editors-in-chief, if you will, that worked together. He led the committee. They worked tirelessly putting together this amazing book. There were hymn writers, composers, editors, and they all compiled these hymns for publication. Now, he worked painstakingly on this book of hymns. He was always editing things, changing things, deleting words, adding words, trying to make it the absolute best it could be. Obviously, he was a perfectionist. And so among those working on the book, Hymns Ancient and Modern, which is H, A, and M, it had a nickname. Among the group working on it, it was called Hymns Asked For and Mutilated. So, mutilated, that doesn't sound like that's not a good M word. They could have come up with something better because, their end result was fabulous. The book of hymns that we have from that is amazing. So he worked really, really hard, but I guess maybe it was hard to work with him if he was never happy looking for perfection. But as a result, that hymn book had an unprecedented popularity, and there's really no other compilation that can compare with it with regard to the rapidity of it, the circulation of it. It appeared in 1861 with 273 hymns, and then there was an appendix in 1868 that contained an additional 113 hymns, and then there was a supplemental, and so they added some more hymns, making the final number 400. So that's a lot. Actually, we look at our hymnal and I think we go up to 800 or 900 now. But back then in the 1800s, it was just phenomenal. And considering, too, what was going on within the church, the Protestant church and the Church of England, many of the contributors to this hymn book were contributors and strong adherents to the Oxford movement. And again, we've talked about that before, and that was the group that sought the renewal of the Roman Catholic thought and practice within the Church of England. So a lot was going on. And so in the first half of the 19th century, most congregations in the Anglican churches, they were not singing hymns. They were devoted to the metrical psalms. And so that doesn't sound very fun to me. I like singing the hymns. The Methodists and the evangelicals in England, they were singing hymns, and it was their influence that spurred the Anglicans to join the ranks of hymn singers, if you will, in the second half of the century. And so that's sort of what was going on behind the scenes while Baker's putting together all of these hymns. Now, the King of Love, My Shepherd is a metrical paraphrase of the 23rd Psalm. I think when we sing that, we all recognize that. Maybe we don't get to sing all of the verses that take us through the entire psalm when we're in church on a Sunday, but take an opportunity to open your book up and look at the King of Love, My Shepherd is, and read each verse because it goes through the psalm perfectly, Psalm 23. Now, it was written for the second half of the book, Hymns, Ancient and Modern. It was part of that appendix in 1868. And as I mentioned, Baker was very emotive and lyrical in the way that he wrote. It was just beautiful poetry. And so that lyrical transcription of Psalm 23, it is said that came to him later in his life, about 1868. He dies in 1877, so about 9 years before his death. But I guess in those years, he was thinking about his death. He was pondering the great beyond. And it says that as he approached those later years, as he approached death's dark veil, that's when he was inspired to write this lyrical transcription of Psalm 23. And so that's how we get the lyrics, of course, inspired by God. But his friend, John Bacchus Dykes, that's another name we've encountered over the years, he was a friend to Baker, and he was on that musical committee, one of the editors for the music in the book Hymns, Ancient and Modern. And he wrote the tune Dominus Regit Me specifically for the text that Baker writes. So let's take a listen and see if it sounds familiar. So that's not the tune that we sing when we're in church on Sunday. So if you remember John Bacchus Dykes, he wrote the tunes for Holy, Holy, Holy. We love singing that. And he also wrote the tune for Eternal Father, Strong to Save. So that great Navy anthem that we enjoy. But we are not singing The King of Love, My Shepherd is to a Dykes tune. Instead, Ralph Vaughan Williams comes along a little bit later, and he wanted to republish the hymn text, but he was denied the right to use Bacchus Dykes' tune. And as a result, he finds another tune that he likes. It's an arrangement of an Irish air that he found that worked, and it was called St. Columbia, and he reworks it a little bit, so he doesn't get all the credit because he found it. It was already written, the Irish air, but he calls it St. Columbia, and that is the tune that we like to sing our song to. So interesting. Ralph Vaughan Williams, we know his name. I mean, he was an amazing musician, wrote operas and all sorts of things. But for us in our hymnal, most notably, we know the tune that we love to sing on All Saints' Day. He's responsible for the tune for All the Saints. So back to Sir Henry Baker. So he was, like I said, probably a perfectionist, very faithful to God, didn't look at that knighthood and go off and be a baroness, but instead stayed true and loyal to his small parsonage there. So he, at first glance, you would not say that he was a candidate for being perverse and foolish. Those are lyrics that we have from Psalm 23. Yet it is said that he spoke those words from the third stanza of the hymn as his last dying words. So it is said that his last dying words were, "Perverse and foolish oft I strayed, but yet in love he sought me, and on his shoulder gently laid, at home, rejoicing, brought me." So those are beautiful words to be thinking about at the end moments of your life, looking forward to going into the arms of Jesus and being welcomed. So Jesus is our shepherd, our friend, and it's very apparent in the beautiful words that Sir William Baker wrote that he loved the Lord with all his heart, and he wrote many hymns that just exuded that love and passion. So enjoy the hymn as you listen to it with our tune attached to it, and I'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.